All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Creative Christian Podcast. I am your host, Bailey Wishart, and with me on the show today are some of my absolute favorite humans. Just to brag a bit on these guys, their Spotify Wrapped stats from this past year, nearly 150,000 listeners tuned into We Release Music across nearly 350,000 streams. In May of last year, CM United named them Songwriter of the Year for their song Made You Too. And they are carrying that success into 2023 with a plan to release 6 new singles over the course of the year. The first of which, it's called Something. It's available to stream right now. We'll include a link to that in the description. But for now, I want to give a warm welcome to Nathanael, Dell, and Michaela of We Release, joining us all the way from Nashville. So thanks for jumping on, guys. Excited to have you here.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. What an intro. Wow. That was so sweet.
That's all you guys. I honestly, I'm like, what can I say about these guys? And I'm like, oh, there's a lot. I could literally, So next time I have you on, I'm going to be talking about your Grammy. So get ready for that.
Oh my gosh. So kind.
Not that anybody really wants to go to the Grammys anymore, because that was kind of a mess last weekend. But
that was something. Speaking of
that was something. But by the time you guys get there, I think they'll have that figured out. So, okay. Well, obviously we've got 3 of you on the show today, so you guys might have to give us the quick version. But first and foremost, what's your guys' story? What's the story of We Release? Like, how did you each find faith? How do you get started in music? And what was the point where those 2 things really intersected in your guys' lives?
You want to start and then just go down?
Yeah, sure. So we grew up in the church, which was a blessing, very thankful for it. And so we grew up hearing about Jesus, and it became real for us probably in high school, college days, I would say. It kind of became more personal and real. And we always grew up writing songs together, Michaela and I, because our dad used to actually be in a band, a Christian band. And so he would play at churches and we'd watch him play. But yeah, so we always just started writing and kind of doing that whole thing. But at first, we were actually in an 80s rock cover band for a while in high school.
All 3 of us.
Nice.
Together, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. But we eventually just decided that we wanted to start doing our own stuff. And so we started
80s rock wasn't doing it for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun.
We wish we could pull that vibe off. That would be super cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And I mean, there are a lot of other bands doing it, especially now that we're in Nashville. Like, there's just so many cover bands. It's just more fun to write your own stuff. But
for sure. And I would say Nathanael and I, at least, we grew up listening to, Christian radio, Christian music. That was kind of like our thing. And so then we just started writing. I think we pretty much started writing Christian music from the get-go.
Yeah.
The first song we ever wrote, God is number 1. Jesus is his son. It was not good, but I do remember
we released
the
song number 4.
You're like, that's one of the 6 that's coming out this year, actually. So,
it's like a 30-second song. It's not all, but yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wait till you hear it. It's going to be good. That's all jokes.
Yeah.
Pretty similar. I feel like I grew up Christian in a Christian home. But I think I started taking my faith more seriously when my dad gave his life to Christ when I was a freshman in high school. It was just kind of this moment of praying for him for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, just for him to, just to witness God. And
that's cool.
When God finally revealed himself to him, it was kind of like, wow, okay, I guess if he can do that, he's kind of a big deal. So I should take this more seriously,
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and then I'm not a sibling, for those who are listening who didn't know that. These 2 are siblings, but I grew up a block or 2 away from them, so I feel like we were at the status where I can walk into their house without knocking. You guys know what that means.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just walk in. Oh yeah, Dell's here. Cool.
Definitely an adopted member of our family.
Yeah. You walk downstairs and see him eating your cereal at your kitchen table, and you're like, all right, this is happening.
Yeah, our mom calls him Cordell. His full name. No one else calls him that really, except for
my grandma and Janet.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah, I jumped in the 80s cover rock stuff with them, and kind of together we kind of transitioned into We the Least, and the rest is history.
Yep.
So
that's awesome. And there is one more sibling. I feel like we do got to give your brother a shout out as well, right?
Shout out to Noah DeLong. He is in Illinois getting a college education for some reason.
What the heck? Who does that anymore?
Yeah. Who does that? I know.
Well, I know. Okay, so I teased it a little bit at the beginning. You've got a lot coming up this year. Like 2023 is like the year of We the Least, it seems like. But are you guys allowed to like spill any tea? What have you been up to on the creative front recently that we're allowed to know about?
I think we can spill some tea for sure.
Yeah, why not? So we have 6 new songs. 1 is already out, but we have 5. Oh, thank you. We have 5 others that are coming too, and we're thinking about releasing them as singles and then also making an EP out of some of them.
Yeah.
Which should be fun.
Kind of like clumping the ones together that are similar, but
yeah.
We have one of them is about growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is about, I don't know how to describe it. Well, one of them is about heaven. Uh-huh. One of them is about kind of kicking yourself into gear, and I don't know how to describe that one.
Which
you
one?
Describe that one.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like a song against self-pity.
There we go.
Oh, that's dope.
Basically.
That's going to wake some people up.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a cool vibe. People, when we perform that live, people really like that one. So that'll be cool when that comes out.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
So people have heard these sonings in like a live setting, but not necessarily.
I think all of them actually live.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool.
Here at least, but
yeah,
that's really cool. So. Well, I know when you guys drop something, every time you guys drop something new, I'm like, A, I get stoked. B, I listen to it. C, like about halfway through the song, I'm like, okay, this is it. And then I post it. I'm like, don't even think I'm finished with the song by the time it's on my Instagram story, because I just get so excited. But I know I love your guys' music, like for real. And that's not even like me like hyping you up. Like it's legit that good. But I remember I posted it on my story, and I got like 4 or 5 people like responded to it and were like, this is really good. And I was like, you should check the rest of their stuff out. And then I went to a baby shower that night, and like 3 or 4 people came up to me there and were like, that song you posted on your story was like so good. But at that point I posted like 3 songs on my story.
That's awesome.
So I had to clarify which one they meant, but one of them was talking about you. So you're good.
Awesome.
So,
you heard it here first. We'll play it any baby shower.
Let's go. Yeah, I know. I need to spread the word to all the moms. Be like, yo, you're missing out on your baby shower entertainment right now.
Hey, we've done a baby gender reveal.
That's true.
Really?
Before.
Weddings, funerals, gender reveal.
Yep. It was my friend's. It was my friend's reveal, and so her sisters planned it that we would show up and pretend to be Christmas caroling to them, and we actually rewrote the song "Santa Baby," and then throughout the song we like revealed it to them, and she was getting annoyed because like she was supposed to like find out her baby gender like earlier in the night, and they didn't know, and here we come, we're singing Santa Baby, and it was so cool. It was really cool.
At one point, she's like, "Why are you guys here?" And then she's like, "Oh, that's why you guys are here."
Yeah.
Was it a boy or was it a girl?
It was a boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you work that into the song?
Yeah. So we sang "Baby, Baby," da, 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 and then at the very end we said "It's a boy, 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 boy." Right? We did like a harmony.
Oh, that's fun.
We layered it. Yeah. So it was cool. It took them a minute.
I think we started saying the word girl, though, to throw them off. Yeah,
boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think they had to
okay. I would have never thought to hire somebody to come and sing for a gender reveal, but that honestly is way doesn't burn any forests down,
Yeah.
which I think is a key. Now something that people have to take into account for their gender reveals, and B,
So
it's a little bit more fun than just your average blue or pink powder that you get excited about for about 10 minutes and then you spend the next 3 hours cleaning it off your driveway. So
Yep. So accurate.
all right. Well, I'm gonna keep that in mind. Well, sweet. I'll segue real quick. I don't even really know how to segue from Santa baby gender reveals to other things, but we'd love to talk a little bit just kind of about what you guys have learned in your time as a band, specifically like as regards to your faith. And I'm going to read a little snippet from your artist description on Spotify, saying it says, "We are the least organized in genre, the least deserving of an audience, and the least important part of what we do." I love that. And I think that's like, I think really cool because that's like kind of the forefront of your guys' band. But I guess what would you say is the hardest part of keeping that mindset front and center as you're creating? And then on the flip side, what's the most encouraging part of implementing that mindset into your creative process?
We want to be proud of the music that we're putting out. We want to be confident in the music that we're putting out. At least for me, like, in a lot of my songs, I write about self-confidence and just the struggle of feeling God's worth and value on my life growing up. And I've moved past that season, but, and I am proud of the things that I'm putting out, but also like realizing that I am not the main part of it. And that, when people give us compliments and encourage us, like, we want to accept it. Of course, it's awesome and it's good. And it makes us feel like we're doing something right, but at the end of the day, like, we really are just trying to point back to Jesus through our music and our lyrics, whether it's strictly Christian based lyrics or not. We're trying to lead people to him and give them, challenge them with our lyrics and bring them closer to him in a way that they haven't heard before or thought about. So yeah, just keeping the balance of confidence, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. God gave us these gifts and these talents for a reason, but also it really is not about us, to not be prideful about it. So right. Just finding the balance between those two things, I guess.
That's so good. I love that.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that was essentially
you read my mind.
Also, I would add to that, like, sometimes we do struggle to remember even with that being our name, sometimes we do struggle just to, like, all right, guys, let's just pray real quick before rehearsal. Let's depend on God here, because if we're not bringing this before him, then why do we expect him to be doing anything with it? Like, we're so dependent on him for anything. If we get any encouraging words from anyone about a song, like, that's totally him. So let's lay this before him. But sometimes we forget to do that in rehearsals. So I think it does help that our name embodies that, to help us come back to that center
100%.
of it's all about him. But even in that, we do still have real struggle to keep that focus.
Yeah. I guess going off of that, it's about how the name is kind of the embodiment. I think it's more of a something that we daily have to strive for, rather than something we're perfect and good at all the time. Yeah, and I think with, hopefully, by the way that we present ourselves and the way that we talk about what we're doing in the music that we make, I think we hope that it's coming across that we don't have it all together, and I hope that it's coming across that that's okay, that we don't have it all together. So yeah, I think just kind of going off what Nathanael said specifically was, I think it's something that we and I think everybody should strive for, rather than expect to be perfect at all the time.
That's a really good point. I think that's even something that I've seen just kind of be the defining point as to whether or not somebody's like, hey, I'm going to go all in and like surrender to Jesus, or hey, no, I don't, is like the fear of, well, I don't think I'm going to be perfect at this. So it's like the fear of not being able to do it right. So you just don't do it at all. And it's like, man, like, that's like not even the point. We do fail a ton.
Right.
And Jesus meets us where we're at, And so I, obviously not to the point of like, let's just continue to just be off the rails because Jesus is gonna meet me where I'm at, so I might as well stay where I'm at. But but like as we grow, knowing that it's not really about being perfect, it's about leaving room for the Holy Spirit to do His thing.
Totally. And I think going along with that, like success too, right? Like I think in the world we have this view of success, and like people might look at us and be like, well, you're not on the radio and you don't have like 1 million streams and you don't have a record deal. Or they might look at you and your podcast and like, Jesus, it's a little podcast. You know what I mean? But we're showing up in the way that God has called us to, even though we haven't seen like that level of success, right? Because that doesn't matter. Like we're the least of that. It doesn't matter like what attention we get from it, right? Like we're showing up in the way that we know how, and even if we're on a little stage at a little church, which we love, that's our favorite venue to perform at because it's so fun. We get to talk to everybody after, and we get to really connect. And there's been people that have come up and made me cry, telling me something that they enjoyed from one of my songs, or that it like touched their heart or whatever. And so just that is enough, I think, for us. We really are the least of what we're doing. We're showing up in the biggest way that we can, so.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. It's like, man, like the thing that Jesus cared most about was people, and so I think no matter what we're doing, and I think that's why I'm so excited to have a space where creatives can kind of come and inspire other creatives. Like, I'm hoping that even if one creative listens to this and gets to hear your guys' story, and it's like, man, like if what we're doing as creatives, whether it's video or design or music or whatever, as long as what that does is about helping people connect with like the ultimate creator, like that's enough, and it doesn't matter if that's millions of people or if that's one person, it's like connecting with God is connecting with God. So I love that mindset. That's super cool. And I think also, just to speak to success, I know you're kind of like, oh yeah, they might be not have a ton of songs on the radio or, whatever. It's like, I think what's cool is, I've had like the pleasure of knowing you guys for at least a little bit of time of you guys being in a band. And like, when I met you guys, you were putting in work, in your hometown in Illinois, and your garage mahal is what I remember you calling it. And, like now you guys are like recording and performing in like freaking Music City. Like that is like the dream of a ton of musicians. And like, obviously, like, I think God's going to keep taking you guys in the direction that He wants to take you guys. But like, as you guys are taking steps closer and closer and closer to the dream that God has put on your hearts for We the Least, like what has the balance look like between putting in that hard work to see that dream come to fruition and like also relying on God to actually come through and make things happen on like His terms, like, I guess like kind of where putting in the work meets trusting the Lord and seeing what He has to say.
I kind of think about, did we decide it was Teddy Roosevelt? I keep on coming back to that.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt, he has this quote, do what you can with what you have where you are. Whenever this idea of obedience kind of comes to mind, I think of that. Because, we put in work. We do, as much as we can to be obedient to where God has us and what He's calling us to do. But we're trusting that He's doing the heavy lifting, that He's doing the big work.
For sure.
And we're just doing our part. It's not that it's more important than His part, because He can sure carry His own weight. But I think what's most important, whether it's something easy that He's calling us to do or something really difficult, is just being obedient. And trusting that maybe the gear that we have is enough for a certain performance, or the songs that we have out there, they're going to reach the right people.
That's good.
We did our work, and God's going to do all the work that He promised that He'll do. So we just gotta really all our job is to listen and do. And man, he does the big stuff. He does the heavy lifting, but not sure.
Yeah, and I think to go out of that too, one specific way that we had to trust God recently was we won that radio promotion contest that you mentioned for Major 2, which was really exciting. But it ended up not being exactly what we thought that it would be with the person that we were working with. And so we hoped that it would be a little bit more of like a larger scale and putting us in front of more people. And it ended up not being that. And some things fell through with it that were kind of disappointing. And it was hard not to get frustrated with who we were working with because we were hoping for big things with it. But at the same time, looking deeper and saying, okay, God is over this and he knows what he's doing. And that wasn't meant to be what we thought that it was going to be. So we just need to trust his timing and what he's doing. And he'll bring the right people along to be on our team and to help and whatever else might come in the future. But that was one specific instance where we really had to just submit to his timing and just trust him with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example because I think it's like I've heard this in like past sermons and stuff like that I've like listened to, but it's like the gap between like if expectation is up here and reality is down here, that gap is where hurt happens.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that's what I'm hearing a lot, even just from that story is like, man, like, okay, like expectations were in one spot, reality was in another spot. And I think so much of our witness comes down to how we respond in certain situations, you know, because that's what people are looking at. You know, I can put as many verses as I want in my Instagram captions, you know, but you know, if my response is off somewhere else, that's what people are going to recognize. So I think that's a really great example, honestly. Okay. Last question. We're kind of getting to the end, but, so one of my favorite things about your guys' music is that it points to Jesus in a way that feels just incredibly genuine and authentic, and I think makes it really easy for people to relate to. And so I guess for you guys specifically, I know you kind of have alluded to it a little bit kind of here and there. I know, Michaela, you even said like you wrote a lot of songs kind of talking about your worth and your value and like how that was kind of a battle for you. So that could maybe be one topic, but what are like some specific areas of culture that you feel the Lord has called you as a band to bring truth, like the truth of the gospel to through your guys' lyrics?
Yeah, the self-worth struggle. And I think I'm not trying to bash Christian radio. I think Christian radio is great for certain people and for certain times. And I listened to it growing up and like, you know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but a lot of the songs on mainstream Christian radio are, you know, God is good and when we're walking through the storm, but they don't really go deeper than that. And I feel like, you know, they almost like want to have a happy ending and like tie like a little bow on it. And I feel like with our lyrics and our songs, like we want to write about what we're struggling with. And like people have doubts about God. People have doubts about where he's taking them. We all have moments where we're like, why God, why? Or like, what is happening, you know? And so being able to be like authentic with that and like, we know that the Lord is good and we believe that, but sometimes down here on this earth, it does not feel like that, you know? And so, just like you said, trying to be genuine and authentic with where we're at and, you know, our stage of life that we're at with God in our personal relationships. So I don't know if that was a good way to sum it up, but
I think a part of being authentic is setting that example that, you know, we're not, you know, we know everything that there is to know about God. Our lives are perfect. Finances are peachy keen. I have my perfect body. No, you know, it's like, if we can set that example for our listeners that we're just normal people just trying to strive after God, and we fail and we win sometimes. We get to see the glory of God in a lot of different situations. And and I think kind of going with your question is like, can we be the best examples that we can be to people who think that Christianity is about being perfect before you even meet Jesus? There's a better way to say it, but
you don't have to clean up your act before you come.
That's really good.
No, I think we talked about this a while ago too, that we kind of each have a little niche that we kind of go after. And we don't even intend it that way. It's just like things that we're passionate about. So Michaela is like the self-worth. We kind of mentioned that already. Mm-hmm. And Dell, there's a couple of his songs that are kind of like wrestling with God, chasing after God, but having questions, that sort of thing. That theme comes up in his songs. And then in a couple of my songs, it kind of comes up with just like material wealth and like, why do you want stuff? You have Jesus. Jesus is better. You don't need stuff. So,
and that all comes from like personal struggles or worldly things that we've like had to go through. And like you said, we didn't even mean like to do that really. Like I didn't even really notice I was doing that, but then just kind of happened that way. So God using our struggles to, help other people, I guess. So
well, I think it's cool because like I feel like in kind of any creative realm, I feel like most creatives are pretty like, I'm trying to think of the word that I'm looking for. They find a lot of their like motivation to create, I think, with the power of story. And it's like, I think ultimately like the greatest story overall is like the story of the gospel, but then each individually, we all have our own stories where it's like the gospel coming alive in our life and how Jesus intersected like the way culture told us to think and the way the Bible's telling us to think. And we have a story of transformation in that. And so I think it's cool because it's like, man, like it sounds like for each of you guys, it's like God intersected your life in a very specific way and then gave you the giftings to speak that story in a really creative way because other people are going to struggle with that too.
I like how you worded that. That's cool. Yeah. That's really, really cool.
I don't really even remember what I said. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I just think like, man, there's like a lot to be said about like the power of story. And I feel like sometimes the way that the devil kind of like rips people off is ripping people off into believing that their story isn't worth telling. And it's like, man, like that's what leads people to see Jesus. It's like your story is kind of the reflection pad where it's like they see your story and then they see Jesus through that. And so I think that like, man, like whether it's like struggling with doubts or materialism or self-worth, it's like if you hear about somebody that also struggled with that, you identify with that and then you see Jesus, and so I'm like that's super encouraging, honestly, to hear that like that's like the direction that God's like really called you guys to like, just come against what culture says about all of those things, because what culture says about all of those things is complete trash.
Totally. I agree.
So I think that's awesome, and I think ultimately like that is the goal, right? Is how do we help people see Jesus, and it sounds like that's the niche that God's calling you guys to kind of do some battle with the enemy with, and I think that's really cool. So yeah,
absolutely.
Well, yeah. Do you guys have any other final thoughts? I don't want to cut anything off. If there's anything that you guys are like thinking, burning things that you're like, if I could talk to a young musician or a young creative or anything like that in the field, this is what I want to say. I know this wasn't one of the questions that I sent you ahead of time, but just want to give you guys a chance if you guys do have anything on your mind or on your heart that maybe didn't fit into the box of all the pretty questions or whatever. So
I have something to say. Yeah. You guys don't?
Yeah, I'm there too. Go for it.
Okay. I think if I was going to like encourage someone, like a young creative or anybody that's kind of looking at what God's calling them to do, I know we're not supposed to like put ourselves in a specific Bible character's life from the Bible. I know that it's not going to be exactly the same, but I do think of David, you know, and the verse about God's power being perfect in our weakness. Am I saying that correctly? And how sometimes he calls us to do things that we aren't comfortable with, right? David was a little shepherd boy and he had to slay this huge giant, right? And that might be like a cliche story to use, but I guess in my experience, I've never liked public speaking or talking in front of a class or everybody looking at me, unless I'm like with my friends, then that's cool.
Yeah.
But like, I've just never enjoyed that. And so it's humorous to me that I'm like in this field, you know,
Right.
and I have to talk in front of an audience and explain these stories and sing in front of, like, I never was that kind of kid growing up where I loved the spotlight and loved being in front of groups. And I kind of love that I've seen that now and been like, no, that's because God, you know, chose me to do this so he can show that it's him up there. Like, it's not me. I'm not putting on a performance. I'm not this like flashy, you know, I'm the last person that my speech class probably thought would ever, you know, be performing in the way that we do. And it's still not super comfortable. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't, in front of audiences, you know, I'm there for the music part's what I love. But just seeing God use me anyways, despite my weakness, you know, in having people come up and saying like, oh my gosh, what you said, like, really touched me. And I'm like, I don't know what I said because I was not enjoying myself necessarily, you know, but just encouragement to young people that sometimes it's not fun what he calls you to do or whatever. It's not like something that makes sense for you. And so to just like follow his lead and be obedient to what he's calling you to do, I guess. So
that's good. Add podcasting to that now too.
Yes.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think I would add to that too. One of the biggest things I think for young people to hear that I was thankful to hear when I started was just you can't care too much about what other people think to not start doing what you know that you need to be doing. Like the fear of man just stops so many people from starting small and just putting things out there and trying things when people's opinion is like so irrelevant. Like if you know that God is calling you to create something or to do something, like just do it. There's going to be people that benefit from it. And of course there will be people that will roll their eyes or say that's stupid or whatever, but you're not doing it for those people. You're doing it for the people that it will really encourage and really help. And there will always be those people. So I think just put it out there. Don't be afraid to start small. Don't get wrapped up in what people think, because ultimately we're living to please Jesus and not man anyway. So
I was nervous when we put out our first album. I was like, what are people in our town? Like, they knew we were musicians, but I was like, what are they going to think about these songs that we wrote? Like, what?
Wasn't a drop, listen to my mixtape.
Yeah.
kind of scenario.
Exactly.
Like that one rapper at your high school. No, I'm grateful that you guys put out that first album. I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are grateful too, you know? So I think, you make a really good point of it's making it about the people that God's calling you to impact and not the people that he's not calling you to impact, you know?
Yeah.
I think those are the voices that tend to be a little bit louder in our lives, you know, but they don't need to be. So that's really good. Well, sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show, and especially when I'm like a new and unproven podcaster. That's meant a lot. I literally was like messaging him like, y'all want to be on my podcast? And y'all didn't even say what podcast. You guys just said sure, you know? So
we love it and we love to support you. Can we ask you a question?
Yeah, we got it really.
Sure.
Can we end it with a question from us?
You can end it with a question. Sure.
Okay. So does anybody want to do it?
Yeah. Okay, so you got to rank these three things.
Okay.
And you got to say which one you like the least. Going with
Yes,
the least.
the least. Yes.
So we got.
Wait, do I start with what's the least and then make it to the one I like the most? Is that
whatever you want to do?
Yeah.
Either one. Okay. We don't care. These are our favorites. I just want to specify our favorite chocolate. We said right, or chocolate bar.
Kind of chocolate or chocolate bar.
Yeah. Okay.
So like a fun.
I'm gonna disappoint somebody.
Yes.
Is what I'm hearing.
That's okay.
Just remember, expectation and reality. You gotta put a lot of hurt in between. Okay.
The hurt is coming. You want to just go in order and say our favorite?
No, because then she'll know who's fave.
Oh yes. Okay.
So we got Hershey's cookies and cream bars.
Okay.
And we got Kit Kats and Baby Ruth bars.
Those are the three choices.
Okay. I would have to say the one I like the least is Hershey's cookies and cream.
Oh.
Thanks for having me, Bailey.
I'm so sorry. That's kind of like, I feel like that's barely chocolate.
Yeah, I don't love them.
You know,
so good. Well, that's why I can't just eat straight chocolate.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, they're not bad. I just think that they serve a very specific purpose, and it's not to be eaten on their own.
Yeah,
like I couldn't just eat.
Tried it on the s'mores.
Yeah. Okay. See, they're good on s'mores. They're good on s'mores.
I never had them on s'mores. That's interesting.
Honestly, my favorite thing to do is put unconventional chocolate or candy in s'mores.
S'mores,
because it's almost always better than just a regular candy. Reese's.
Have you tried Reese's?
Yes, Reese's on a s'more is undefeated for sure. Okay, circling back. I'll say Baby Ruth is in the middle.
Okay.
It's just a mid candy for me.
Yep.
To be honest. And then I would have to say Kit Kat. Kit Kat is probably a top 3 candy for me. So
same.
I don't know. I just like it. And I think it's because it's like the focus of that is so it's just it knows what it is.
Yes.
It's chocolate and wafer. And that's it. You know.
I mean, I'm happy with that analysis.
Definitely a good analysis.
I think the second.
I love that.
But I also respect it, you know. I'm like, somebody's got to keep the Hershey's cookies and cream and Baby Ruth industry alive, and that's
doing my part.
So, yeah, it won't be me, but someone has to. So I respect that. I love that. That's amazing. Now I feel like I should start asking people to end with a question for me.
Yeah,
that's a great ending. I'm here for that. Awesome. Well, first of all, again, just thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing a lot about just kind of how God has really taken you guys on a journey of learning how to utilize your creativity to influence people. Because I think when we are created to be creators, that's like the ultimate goal is, okay, how do I do this? And I feel like my dream in my heart is to see more creatives helping each other out and learning from each other and growing from each other. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, because there's a lot that we can learn from each other. And so, you know, my dream and my hope is that, you know, people after listening to this learn a lot from you guys and your guys's stories and your struggles and your successes and all that stuff. And ultimately influences more people to make waves for Jesus, you know. And so thank you for being a part of that.
Thanks for having us. It was so fun. It was so good to see you and catch up.
Always fun catching up with you guys. I'm a huge fan of your guys' music, but ultimately I'm a huge fan of you guys as people. So I like having a conversation with you guys as people as well. So it was a ton of fun.
All right too.
That's my goal. I was hoping to skate by with an all right. So okay. Sweet. All right. Well, I'm gonna end this, but thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Creative Christian Podcast. If you like the content, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel so you don't ever miss another episode of the Creative Christian Podcast. And feel free to follow the links to check out some of the awesome content getting put out by the featured creators from this episode. Can't wait to see you guys next time.